In art history, when a canvas suffers a structural tear, the damage doesn't just stay contained. If it isn't repaired, the tension spreads, the fibers pull apart, and the tear just expands. In the last episode, we watched the demise and fracture of Genesis 3. Humanity took the pencil out of the creator's hand and became their own creative directors. And this broke the composition. So now that we're in Genesis chapter 4, we step onto the rugged, uncurated terrain outside the Garden of Eden. And Adam and Eve have two sons, and these two sons' names are Cain and Abel. They inherit the same exact, profound black silhouette as their parents and their creator. Today, God is trying to tell you something about the velocity of sin. Because what began as a whisper in a garden is about to accelerate into the absolute first moment of violence and first murder in human history. The brothers establish their vocations. Cain becomes a tiller of the ground, struggling with the stubborn and thorn-infested soil. But Abel becomes a shepherd and a steward in life. Both bring an offering to God. Abel brings the firstborn of his flock, a sacrifice requiring a shedding of blood. And this was a type of acknowledging that approaching the holy requires a life. Cain brings the fruit of the ground, the direct product of his own sweat, labor, and performance. It starts to become interesting when we look at the text, and it says that God looked with favor on Abel and his offering. But on Cain and his offering, he did not. And this is where the internal war begins. Why the rejection? It wasn't like this type of arbitrary preference for meat over vegetables. It wasn't a critique of the heart, but it seemed that Abel offered his absolute best out of deep faith and surrender, as we call it, right? And Cain brought a type of mere obligation. And this obligation was expecting God to applaud his hard work. But if we look at Cain's posture as the graphite deepens around his face, the text says his face fell. So the charred black silhouette of his darkness enters further as like this type of toxic resentment and jealousy that warps his expression. Before the canvas is eventually ruined completely, God steps into the frame. And God does not come to condemn Cain, but he comes to counsel him. He offers him this type of way out before the ink dries. And God asks him one day, "Yo, why are you angry? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not what is right, sin is going to be crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." This is super interesting because this is one of the most profound design notes in all of the scripture. And if we look at how the curator describes sin here, it's not just a bad mistake or some type of poor behavior. It's obvious that it's some type of predatory force. It's an aggressive, living beast waiting just outside the borders of our consciousness. just watching for that one crack in our character so it can consume us. And God tells Cain, you have that agency to master it. But Cain chooses to let the beat inside. The scene transitions to an open field. The lions become frantic and violent and super destabilized. And Cain, he lures his brother out. And this was a moment of raw, untamed malice. Where the first murder occurs. The black hand that was designed to cultivate life is now used to crush it. The ultimate subversion of the image of God. So God confronts the killer. Where's your brother at, Abel? Cain spits back the infamous cold architecture of denial that we've all heard many times in many films. I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? Then God delivers a terrifying truth that echoes through art and history. What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. And in this biblical narrative, violence leaves a type of permanent stain on canvas. The ground remembers. The soil that was cursed in chapter 3 is now polluted with brotherly blood in chapter 4. God marks Cain. And he marks him not as a curse, but as a sign of protective mercy to prevent endless cycle of blood vengeance, and banishes him to wander in exile. At this point, the fracture has escalated from a broken rule to a broken body that is dead. So what is God trying to tell you in this dark, historic turning point? Well, he's telling us that the unmanaged resentment is a type of invitation to destruction. Because when you harbor envy, when you look at someone else's acceptance and let that bitterness rot in your heart, you're only feeding that crouching beast at your door. Violence doesn't start in the hands. It starts when we stop mastering our internal composition. But look at how God closes the chapter. He provides a replacement. Adam and Eve have another son, and his name is Seth. Seth's name means appointed, ensuring the righteous line of faith isn't erased from earth. And finally, the deep theological contrast of the blood. Well, Abel's blood cried out from the dirt, demanding justice, vengeance, and retribution. But centuries later, the New Testament tells us about another righteous brother who was led out into the field and murdered by his brother, aka baby Jesus. But we'll get to that in the New Testament. But rewind. The book of Hebrews says that Jesus' blood speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Abel's blood cried out for your condemnation, but Jesus' blood cries out for clearing. And within this first violent moment, humanity was fractured, but the final moment on the cross repaired the canvas forever. The shadow is deep, but the artist is still holding a pencil. Join us next time for episode 4. the great storm of erasure, God is trying to tell you something, and I hope you are listening.